Hi guys! In the last few videos, I've talked about what kind of dream Heavenly Parent had at the very beginning and what responsibilities we as human beings have. However, if you look at the world today, we see that it's not the ideal world that Heavenly Parent envisioned. So in these next few videos, I will explain what went wrong in human history. Lecture 2, The Human Fall. Why is there so much suffering in the world that we live in today? Have you ever asked yourself this question before? As we see the constant news of war, violence, pollution, we often wonder, is this the world that Heavenly Parent wanted at the beginning? Today we will investigate the hidden secrets of human history in search of the answer to this question. As we learned in the first lecture, Heavenly Parent's dream was for his only begotten son and only begotten daughter, Adam and Eve, to unite as a couple, become true parents, so that Heavenly Parent could live together with them and all the children of the world through the true parents. That was his dream. He wanted to live together in happiness forever with his beloved children. Unfortunately, due to a single incident in human history, that dream was frustrated, and humanity was led down a path different from the original purpose of creation. That incident is called the fall. As a result, our reality became filled with suffering and conflict. So, what is the human fall and how has it impacted our lives today? In these next few videos, we will look into the cause, process, and consequences of the human fall. In Genesis chapter 3, the story of the human fall is described in detail. To summarize, first, the serpent approaches Eve. He asks her whether God truly commanded them not to eat from any tree in the garden. Eve responds by clarifying that they may eat the fruit of the tree in the garden except for the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. She explains that God commanded them not to eat or even touch it lest they die. However, the serpent deceives Eve, contradicting God's warning. The serpent assures her, "You will not surely die. Rather, your eyes will be opened and you will become like God, knowing good and evil." Eve, persuaded by the serpent's words, looks at the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, takes it, and eats it. Then she gives some to Adam, who also eats it. At that moment, their eyes are opened, and they realize they are naked. Overcome with shame, they sew fig leaves together to cover themselves. This act marks the first sin committed by humans and is referred to as the fall. When God comes to the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, filled with fear, hide from him. When Heavenly Parent calls them, Adam responds by saying that they hid because they were naked. Then God asks, "Who told you you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat from?" Adam replies by blaming Eve, saying that she gave him the fruit, and Eve in turn blames the serpent for deceiving her. Ultimately, Adam and Eve are expelled from the Garden of Eden. Heavenly Parent drives them out to prevent them from eating from the tree of life and living forever. To block the way of the tree of life, God places cherubims and a flaming sword at the east of the Garden of Eden. To summarize the story of the fall in the Bible, due to the serpent's temptation, Adam and Eve fell and ate from the tree that Heavenly Parent commanded them not to eat from, leading to their expulsion from the Garden of Eden. Much of the Bible is written in symbolism and metaphor. Therefore, if the story of the fall is also made up of symbolism and metaphor, then what is expressed as metaphors and what do these things really represent? In order to unravel this story, we first need to understand the identity of the serpent, what the serpent represents, and also what the forbidden fruit represents. Only by understanding these elements can we address the fundamental issue. In the Bible, the serpent that tempted Eve was able to converse with humans. The serpent also knew God's will, which was to prevent them from eating the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Moreover, Since the serpent tempted Adam and Eve into eating the forbidden fruit, it seems that the serpent was wiser than Adam and Eve. In Revelation chapter 12, verse 9, it states, "The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him." This verse reveals that the ancient serpent was originally a being in heaven. The serpent in the Bible was able to converse with human beings and had the wisdom to tempt them. How can a simple creature like a snake be able to talk with human beings and convince them to do something? Moreover, in Revelation chapter 12, verse 9, when the ancient serpent was cast out of heaven to the earth, the Bible refers to his angels who were cast out with him. When we consider this, we can understand that the ancient serpent who tempted Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden was, in fact, an angel. The angel who had known the will of Heavenly Parent, neglected his duties, and driven by selfish desires to dominate humans, tempted them and caused their fall, becoming Satan. This angel was the archangel Lucifer, who had been most loved by Heavenly Parent and was entrusted with spreading that love throughout the entire angelic realm. Next, let's examine what the forbidden fruit, the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil that Heavenly Parent commanded Adam and Eve not to eat, represents. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 25, it is written, "Before the fall, Adam and Eve were naked, and they felt no shame. However, after the fall, they realized they were naked, so they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves." If the forbidden fruit was an actual fruit, they would have covered their hands or mouths after the fall. However, instead, they covered their lower bodies. Now, let's look at this picture. If you were told not to eat the snacks in front of you, but were caught secretly eating them, what would you typically hide? Like the child in this picture, you would most likely cover your mouth so that the act of you eating isn't visible. This illustrates that when a wrongdoing is exposed, it is human nature to try to conceal the action or place where the wrongdoing occurred. In the same way, the fact that Adam and Eve covered their lower bodies after committing the fall suggests that they used their lower bodies in the act of the fall. This implies that the human fall was caused by engaging in a sexual relationship when it wasn't the time. Additionally, Heavenly Parent gave Adam and Eve the commandment not to eat, saying, "You must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die." Would the Heavenly Parent of love really place such a deadly fruit right in the middle of the Garden of Eden where his children could easily reach it? What kind of parent would put their child in such a dangerous situation? What kind of parent would test their son and daughter's obedience through that kind of choice? Not even a human parent would put their child under such danger. So it's hard to imagine that the Heavenly Parent of love would do such a thing to Adam and Eve. Therefore, the forbidden fruit must have been something so powerful that it could overcome the fear of death. In other words, eating the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil does not simply refer to consuming a prohibited fruit. It signifies that Adam and Eve disobeyed Heavenly Parent's commandment and engaged in an illicit sexual relationship through self-centered love, leading them to the fall. As a result, their relationship with Heavenly Parent was severed, and sin and suffering emerged in humanity. In this video, we examine what exactly the human fall was, what the forbidden fruit and serpent represented. In the next video, we'll go into more detail into the cause and process of the fall. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.